Hey y'all, so today I'm going to be doing a Top of My TBR video. Top of My TBR is a series that I started on my channel where basically I talk about the books that are really piquing my interest right now. Despite the literal title of this series, these aren't necessarily the books that I'm going to be getting to next. This isn't a definitive TBR for the next few weeks or months. These are just the books that right now are really coming to the forefront of my mind and are ones that I'm constantly thinking of as books that I want to pick up soon. So for most people that would denote like the upcoming books on the TBR, but given that my mind changes constantly and I've always got 20 billion things running through my head, that's not necessarily true for me. But I digress. Before jumping into this list of books, of which I think that there are maybe about 12-ish, I do want to talk briefly about the reading mood that I'm in because it's a interesting one. And I say it's an interesting one because not only is it odd for me to be in this mood, but it's like an oddly specific mood to be in. And it's kind of like 3 oddly specific moods. So as anyone who's seen any of my videos this year will be aware, I've been in a massive reading slump all year long. My reading goal for the year was 50 books. I've read 17. But over the past couple weeks, I've really wanted to dig into reading, and I've been trying to figure out what I'm in the mood for. And oddly, it's exactly what I was in the mood for back in July after finishing If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Basically, I think that book just actually ruined me, and now I've been wanting to read something just like it ever since. So right now, I'm in a dark mood. I've been in a dark mood pretty much ever since July. I want to read some dark books, and I don't mean like horror, scary dark. I mean like darker toned, maybe creepy, mysterious, and definitely murdery. I've been into like a murder novel mood, or murder mystery as most people would call it, normal people. I've been in kind of a murder mystery mood, but not like a cozy mystery, and I don't know if y'all know what that is, but it's like one of those ones that you would picture like, I don't want to stereotype, but like one of those ones that stereotypically would be like one that a middle-aged woman would read curled up by the fireplace, like a cozy mystery. That's why it's called a cozy mystery. Like one of those ones where like a scrappy hometown detective solves murders in like 20 different books, and somehow, even though it's a small town, all the characters in the small town are still alive, or at least all the ones she knows. I'm rambling now. And I say all of that to say that I'm not in one of those murder mystery moods. I'm in like a dark, sinister murder mystery mood. But at the same time, like slightly independent from that, I'm also kind of in a mood for like things where the setting is super important to the story. And obviously in all books the setting's important, but like one of those books where like the setting really sets the mood for the story. So there are books on this list where both of those things are kind of mashed up into one book, and it means I'm super in the mood for it. And there are also a couple where it's like just one of those aspects that's making me really want to pick it up, but I've been rambling too long about my mood. You'll see it developed a little bit more as I start showing you the books. So as always, I'm starting with the ones that I own, which is most of them this time, and then I'm going to be transitioning into the ones that I do not own. First up, and the one that I am possibly the most in the mood for out of all the books on this list, this is the one that I want to pick up soon, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I started this in August, I got 50 pages in, and then I put it down. It wasn't that it wasn't intriguing, I just stopped wanting to read in general. So I put it down even though it was super intriguing thus far. And I picked this up because I saw comments online saying that If We Were Villains, the book that started this whole dark academia murder mystery mood, someone said online, or I guess multiple people said, that that book ripped off this book, and so I was immediately curious to see what this book was all about. So without giving too many details away, this book centers around a group of classic students in this small New England college. This is a very small and elite group of students, and they're all very tight-knit with each other and with their professor, and some dark things happen. And that's where I'm gonna leave that. The 50 pages that I did read of this, I was really impressed. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the writing oddly, and I say oddly because it was really good writing, but it's not usually the type of writing that I really want to read, and I don't know how to explain that any more articulately, but like, it's not usually the type of writing I enjoy, but I really liked it in this. Either way, I'm taking this on break with me. I'm definitely gonna pick this one up before I pick anything else up, but the rest of these books on this list are also really intriguing. So the next book on this list is probably going to throw you a bit for a loop after the way I described my mood, but I'll explain myself. And that is the second book in the Lux series, which I believe is Onyx by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read Obsidian almost a full year ago and I really enjoyed it, and ever since then Onyx has kind of been that like constant little poking, prodding, annoying child on my bookshelf being like, hey Kristen, remember me? I exist. You should pick me up and read me. Like I said, I'm kind of in the mood for things where the setting is really important, and I've kind of been in a little bit of a like small town mood. Like I, for some reason, am really wanting to read things that take place within a small or secluded environment, like with The Secret History, the small secluded group of students, with this, the small town. There are a few others where it's like a small town kind of thing. I'm just kind of in that sort of mood. That said, this is more of a paranormal romance than anything else, but that small town setting is really something I'm in the mood for right now. So I could definitely see myself picking this up. I have the rest of the series on hold at the library for me, so I might just end up picking up the series and reading it over break. So the next book on this list is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I think alongside the dark academia mood, I'm also just kind of in the mood for slightly pretentious books. Actually, I take that back. I think that one of the words on the back of this book is actually a much better way to describe it than pretentious, and that is erudite, which on second thought is a pretty pretentious word on its own, so I guess pretentious is pretty accurate. Also, it deals a lot with the Bodleian Library, which in itself is also a very erudite thing, and I am a librarian, so I love anything set in libraries or dealing prominently with libraries, so this just is really ticking off all those boxes, and it's making me really want to pick it up really badly. As I said when I hauled this book a few months ago, this just deals with a lot of things that I really love, and it definitely has that atmospheric thing because it's set in Oxford, which, as I said, is my favorite place on the planet. I went to Oxford almost 2 years ago and it was fantastic. It's beautiful. I love it. And so reading a book set in Oxford just sounds fantastic, and the fact that it also kind of deals with academia a little bit and the rest of it is fantasy stuff just really tugs at my heartstrings and makes me want to pick it up. Since we're already over in Oxford, let's just take a quick little hop, skip, and a jump over to London Belongs to Me by Jacqueline Middleton. This isn't a dark book by any means, or at least it's not seeming to be a dark book at this point when I haven't read it, but it does take place in London, and I am in the mood for books that the setting is really prominent, and I love the London setting. I love London. I only got to spend one day there, but it was absolutely fantastic. And so a book set in London that's a little bit more lighthearted is definitely something that seems like fun, and talking about it in that light really makes me think of What a Girl Wants, even though the plot of this is nothing like that, or at least I don't think it is. But yeah, a geeky writer setting off to live in London after graduating is just such a cool idea, and it's like the dream that I want to live. So yeah, this is definitely one that's really intriguing me right now. Since we're still in England, let's just stay there for a little bit and head back in time a little bit to Rebel Angels by Libba Bray, which is the second book in the Gemma Doyle trilogy. I read A Great and Terrible Beauty as I think part of the Booktubeathon in July, and I loved it, and I've been meaning to pick up the second book in the series and continue the series, and I haven't yet. Fun fact, this is a series that Sarah, my best friend, really loved when she was in middle school, high school, and when I started reading the first book, she started re-listening to the audiobook of it, and I think that she already re-went all the way through the series before I got to the second book. So, good job, Sarah. I need to catch up. So yeah, this isn't necessarily like a murder mystery, but it's a dark-toned novel that takes place at a boarding school, so it definitely fits that like dark academia thing, and I really loved the first book, and I love Gemma Doyle as a character, so very excited to continue this series eventually. Not sure I'm gonna do it immediately, but it's definitely one that's really intriguing me right now. So this next one, I believe, is not set technically in the UK, because I think that Ireland would be offended to be considered part of the UK, and I'm also not entirely sure that it's set in Ireland, but it is the Dublin Murder Squad series. so I'm assuming that it takes place in Ireland, but I haven't read the book. This is The Likeness by Tana French. This is the second book in the series, but I have discovered that I can read it out of order, and this is the one that's really intriguing to me because it does deal a little bit with like a university slash college setting, I believe, and the concept is the one that sounds the most intriguing. Essentially, the main character of this novel is a detective, and there's a crime scene that's discovered, and the girl that was murdered is like an alias that the main character used to use, and so this girl has the name and face of this alias that she used to use, which basically means that she looks exactly like this murdered girl. And so therefore she kind of assumes this girl's identity as a graduate student, I believe, to try and figure out what happened to her. This book has been on my radar for a while, and though it sounded interesting, I never really considered picking up until I got into this dark academia mood, and now it's just really, really intriguing to me. I've heard some good things from the people I've seen who have read it, so I'm hoping for good things out of this book. I trust the reviewers who liked it, so I'm very, very intrigued. This is another one that I think is definitely coming along with me home for break, unless my parents' library has this. I'm not sure if the library in their town does or not. This next one really has nothing to do with the past few, so I can't have a cool segue, but the next one is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This is the third book in the Diviner series. I believe it's still supposed to be 4 books. That's what it was last time I checked. Maybe it's more, I don't know, but this is the most recent one that has been published, and I still haven't read it yet, even though I love the series. This one is more along the like horror creepy lines, but it definitely is a dark novel, and the setting is of course super, super important to the story. Like the 20s are just smeared all over this. It's so apparent that you're in the 20s the entire time you're reading these books. And that was a weird analogy, but we're just gonna go with it. Anyway, I love this series so much. I love the atmosphere of the 20s and like New York City that it sets, and given that it's a dark novel and it's very atmospheric, this is definitely piquing my interest right now. That said, it has been over a year since I read book 2, so I might need a refresher, and I think that when I do read this, I kind of want to listen to the audiobook, because when I listened to the first 2 audiobooks, I loved it. I love the narrator, and it gives it just an even more like atmospheric, creepy vibe. So I think I'm gonna do that, but I might have to re-listen to the second book first, which I kind of don't want to do, but I really liked it and I love this series, so I might do that. Next up is The Sitterford Mystery by Agatha Christie. I discovered this at Half Price Books recently, and I did not even know that this book existed, which is surprising because I'm a huge, huge fan of Agatha Christie. I've read over a third of the Poirot series, and I've obviously read And Then There Were None, my favorite standalone. And so I was really surprised to see a book that I just didn't recognize at all. And then the concept was super intriguing as well, and given that I am in a like murder mystery mood, this was just really, really intriguing to me, right up my alley right now. So from what I can tell from the back, in this novel there are a bunch of amateur occultists who are trapped in a mansion during a snowstorm, and either they discover a body or someone dies, and I'm assuming that that means that one of them has killed someone, not entirely sure, or maybe it's the spirits, I don't know. But it sounds like it's got what I like to call the hidden traitor trope, where like one of the characters is secretly a murderer or secretly betraying everyone else, and that is my favorite thing, which is why I love And Then There Were None. So super intriguing, definitely want to pick it up. And it's a murder mystery and it's dark, so that's what I've been in the mood for. Next up is TheDarkest Corners by Kara Thomas, which basically checks all of the boxes on the things I'm in the mood for. The book centers around our main character, Callie, who is returning to her hometown for the first time since something really, really bad happened in her childhood. And because she's returning, it's starting to make her question some of the things that happened and trying to figure out if what she thinks happened actually happened. And it's a small town. It's, I think, kind of a murder mystery. I don't know if it was a murder or something else dark that happened, but it's some sort of dark mystery in a small town, which super intriguing. Definitely what I'm in the mood for. I liked Little Monsters by her. I didn't absolutely love it, but I did like it, so definitely intrigued to pick this up. And then lastly, for the books that I've actually read, is The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. Like with The Diviners, this is the third book in my favorite ongoing series, and I still haven't read it. What am I doing? I love the Bone Season series. It is fantastic. I have given both books 10 out of 10, and I still haven't picked this up for some reason. I think most of it is that I really need to reread book 2 before starting this, because I did read book 2 almost 2 years ago, so I really need a refresher. But I love the London atmosphere in this book. I really should have mentioned this earlier when I was talking about London. Oh well. But I love the setting in this book, and that is one of the most important aspects to the story. And even though it's not like a murder mystery or anything, it is pretty much a pretty dark tone overall. So definitely in the mood for this, and I love the series. So I think for the first time since I started doing the top of my TBR videos, I only have 2 books on this list that I don't own. Like, usually the majority of the list is books I don't own, but today there's only 2. So the first of those, which actually sounds a lot like one of the books that I talked about earlier, is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Side note, I used to see people pronouncing it Gillian Flynn, and then I saw people pronouncing it Gillian Flynn, and I don't know which one is correct, and I don't know what is the accepted pronunciation now, so I'm going with Gillian because that seems to make the most sense. Anyway, the premise of this sounds kind of like The Darkest Places by Kara Thomas, where a character is returning to her hometown, something bad happened in that hometown, and she's starting to question what she remembers about the events. And I've kind of been in the mood for adult novels. If you hadn't noticed from the books that I listed, a large majority of them are adult novels. And so I would initially be inclined to pick up Dark Places over TheDarkest Corners, but I was not a super big fan of Gone Girl. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 in the end, a low 3 out of 5. Like, I didn't hate it, but I just thought it was okay, and I wasn't a super huge fan of the tone overall, and if I remember correctly, I wasn't super huge on her writing style either. So even though Dark Places has sounded super intriguing for like 3 years, I have not picked it up because of Gone Girl. So let me know down in the comments if it's likely for me to enjoy it, even if I didn't really like Gone Girl. I am considering picking it up, but I'll probably check it out from the library versus buying it. So I said that there were 2 more books on this list, and I lied. There was only the one. I don't know what I was looking at or what I was counting. I don't know how I miscounted one, but that's the last book. So that is it for my top of my TBR video. Like I said, I think the one that I'm most inclined to pick up is The Secret History. I really want to pick that up soon. I might read that on the plane on the trip to my parents' house for winter break. That said, I am planning on filming a try a chapter book tag before I leave for break, and that's going to be either tonight or tomorrow night or both. And all of the books in that are going to be books that I talked about here, so I will leave that linked up in the cards. I don't think I'm going to do all of them, but like the ones that are most piquing my interest right now, those are the ones that I'm going to include. Probably 5 or 6, that's usually how many I do. Those usually don't go super well for me, but I like trying them, and I like seeing if I can find a book that I really want to pick up at that very moment. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you think of any of the books that I've talked about in this video. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.